Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Dear meritorious, faithful, kind devotees, and dear Dhamma friends, today we are having a special Dhamma program on behalf of the Vesak full moon poedy. So this is one of the sermons we are having today. In this sermon, I would like to discuss some facts about the existence of the beings, existence of us, and what are the root causes for this existence. And according to the Buddha's teaching, what we can do for this existence, what are the drawbacks, what are the disadvantages of this existence, and what we can do in order to get a solution for this existence, and how we can do that as a practice or based on the training what Buddha has promulgated. What are the steps we can take in order to do something for this existence, as a solution what we can do. So these facts I would like to discuss today within this Dhamma sermon. So what is this existence? What is the existence of me? What is the existence of you? And existence of the being? How we can understand that? In order to understand that, we have to understand what has happened in the past, what is happening now, and what will happen in the future. As per the Buddha's teaching, we believe that as per the Buddha's teaching, the fundamental is this is not the origin of the life. This is not the end of this existence. The basic fact or the fundamental is we had a past life, and definitely we will have a rebirth or the next life if we not eliminate the defilements or the root causes for this existence as a generation. That is the basic fundamental of the Buddhism, of the Buddha's teaching. This is not the single life. This is a generation, and within that generation, this is a single life, one life. And as the beginning, there is no beginning of this generation. As per the Buddhism, we are not talking about the beginning. That we are not imposing a beginning. Before that, the life was not there. Before that exact point, we are not telling that before that there was not a being, there was not this generation or the existence, and that is the time, that is where this generation began. That is not the Buddhism. That is not the Buddha's teaching. According to the Buddha's teaching, there is no beginning. There is no starting point. If we are not eliminating the defilements, and there will not be an end. Without come to an end, we have to have a rebirth again and again, and we have to die again and again. There's no end. There's no stopping of this generation or the existence. That we have to understand. So we have to understand we had a past life, and we will have a next life or the rebirth. The problem is we are having a rebirth. If there is no rebirth, if we are not taking a rebirth, if we will not experience the rebirth, then this will not be a big problem, because you can live as you want, you can experience anything, you can enjoy anything. If this will come to an end at the death, if something is not continuing as the rebirth, then this existence will not be a big problem. But the problem is, this existence or the generation, this life, will not come to an end at the death. After the death also, we will have to experience the same thing, same existence in a different way as a rebirth. Because definitely we will have a rebirth if we are not going to eliminate or eradicate these defilements within us. According to the basic principles or the fundamentals of the Buddhism, we have to understand what are the root causes. What kind of a generation is this? Because we believe, as Buddhists, we believe, according to the Buddha's teaching, the life, this existence will not come to an end at the death. We call this, according to the Buddhism, we call this a samsara. You also have a samsara, I also have a samsara. All the living beings have their own samsaras. What is samsara? According to our general agreement or general opinion, how we can understand, yes, we had past lives, there is no beginning of the past lives, and now we are living as a human being, we are living, and all the other living beings are also living. And after the death also, we will continue this journey. This is called the samsara. According to our basic opinion, general opinion, we believe, I was there in the past life, and now I am living as a human, and I will also die one day, and I will get a rebirth. It can be a human, it can be a deva, or it can be any kind of a living being. According to our general opinion, we believe this is our samsara. There is a living being, there is a self, there is I. I am going to have this experience. I am going one life to another. This is my samsara. This is the living being samsara. That is our general opinion. But according to Dhamma, what we have to understand is, there is no being, there is no self. Samsara is there because that samsara is identical to the exact person or that particular person or the living being. You also have your own samsara, I also have my own samsara. They are identical to that person. Because you have to experience your own samsara. You have your own past life or past lives. You have your own present life. You will have your own identical future lives as well. I also have the same. Every living being has to experience their own samsara alone. We know that in this life we are associating many relatives, many friends, some are very close friends. So today we have some friends, relatives within us, around us. We are associating them. But when we consider about the beginning in this life, we came alone. From the past life, we came to this present life alone. Now we have some friends, relatives, and many people we are associating. But at the death, we have to give up everything. We have to leave everyone. And for the future life, for the next rebirth, we have to go alone. No one will come with you as a friend or as a relative to the next life. You have to go to the next life alone. You have to experience this whole samsara alone. That we have to understand. Another living being has that identical samsara, he has to go alone. I also have to go alone and have to experience this samsara. Until I eliminate, until I eradicate the whole defilements and become an arahant. That is the end point, the final or the last life of the samsara. After that, after becoming an arahant, there will not be a rebirth. That is the behavior or the nature of the samsara. Every living being has their identical samsara. That is what we call. But according to our opinion, our general agreement, general perception is there is a living being, there is a self who is taking this experience, who is coming from life to life and will continue this samsara as a living being, as a self, as a person, as a human, as a deva. Sometimes they can come to the woeful realms, animal realms, petas realms. Sometimes they will go to the human world, divine worlds and Brahma worlds. But they have their own samsara that is identical for that living being, that person. We believe there is a self, there is a living being, there is a person who is going from one life to another. That will continue as a self. But according to Dhamma, what is happening there? What is this existence? According to Dhamma, what is samsara? Kandhanancha patipati dhatu ayatananacha abhocchinnang vattamana sansaroti paucchati. Samsara is defined according to Dhamma is kandhanancha patipati. Yes, there is a generation, there is existence which will continue from life to life. That's true. But Dhamma doesn't agree with a self. There is no self. Then what is this existence? Kandhanancha patipati. There are aggregates, set of aggregates. According to Dhamma, there are 5 aggregates. These set of aggregates, we can say the matter, the rupa khandha, this is the corporeality or the matter. And the vedana khandha, that is a feeling. That is a feeling what we feel through the objects. The sanya khandha, that is a perception. Sankhara khandha, that is the mental formation other than the vedana and sanya. Vijnana khandha is a consciousness. Those are the 5 aggregates that what we have. And what is this existence? Those set of aggregates is this generation, is this existence. They are the existence, they are the generation. The thing is, the set of aggregates will arise, will stay for a while, very small moment, and they will vanish. The generation or the existence is, even though the set of aggregates will come to an end, even though they vanish, new set of aggregates will arise, will emerge as a set. Those new aggregates will exist for a while and they also vanish. But after that, even though the second set of aggregates vanish, a new set of aggregates, a group of aggregates will arise, will emerge, and this will continue. Even though you die, even though you leave from this life, new set of aggregates will be there, will exist, will emerge as a new life, as a rebirth. It can be the aggregates in divine world, it can be the set of aggregates in human world, or in other woeful realm, peta or animal realms. This continuation will happen. This existence as generations of the aggregates will be there. Because of that, that's true, the aggregates will come to an end. They will not be there, they will not exist for a longer period. They will arise, exist for a while, very small period, and they will vanish. That is a nature. They cannot exist for a longer period. But the problem is, even though this momentary existence is there, even though these set of aggregates come to an end, even though they vanish, new set of aggregates will arise and they will continue. Then also they will vanish and new set of aggregates will emerge and they will continue. This will happen within this life and also after this life. That was the thing that has been happening in this entire samsara. That is the teaching of the Dhamma. That is the Buddha's teaching. Kandhanancha patipati. The generation of the aggregates, even though they do not exist for a while, this generation will not come to an end. Aggregates come to an end, that's true. New set of aggregates emerge. They also vanish. But this happening, this nature, this generation will not come to an end. New set of aggregates will emerge again and again without coming to an end. That will be happening in the next life also. To the entire samsara, until you achieve the liberation, until you eradicate all the defilements, this continuation will be there, this generation, as the new set of aggregates, as the emerging of new set of aggregates, it will continue. That is the samsara. Kandhanancha patipati dhatu ayatananacha abhochinnang vattamana sansaroti pauchati. What is samsara? Samsara is the non-stopping or the continuation of these aggregates, kandhas, continuation of the ayatanas, the faculties, continuation of these dhatus, the elements, without coming to an end. Existence will not come to an end. The particular dhammas, particular elements, particular faculties or aggregates will come to an end. That's true. But this happening, the nature, this generation, this existence will not come to an end. That is called the samsara. That is the samsara what we have to experience. Those aggregates will continue. Those elements will continue. Those faculties will continue. That is samsara. According to Dhamma, according to the Buddha's teaching. That we have to accept. Because in Dhamma, there is no existence of a being. There is no self. Self or a person or a being will not come from one life to another. The self will not continue with the journey. There is no existence or generation about a being. But there are generations, but mere faculties, aggregates or the elements. That is the samsara. That we have to understand. According to the Buddha's teaching, we have to reject that self. As a common agreement, many will have that agreement, that opinion, their self. I will go to the human world again. I will go to the divine world again. But according to Dhamma, we have to reject that opinion and we have to learn why there is no self. Why there is no being in this samsara. Only the generation or the existence of the kandhas, dhatus and ayatanas are there. That we have to understand. Okay, now we know the samsara is there. We know there is no beginning. There was a long journey we have been experiencing as new lives, from one life to another, from that life to another new one. Likewise, we have been experiencing many lives. That is a long journey. We cannot find a beginning, and that will be continued until we achieve the liberation. And we call that is samsara. Okay, why this existence? Why this generation will not come to an end? Buddha is teaching or advising his disciples. Chatunnang bhikkhave arya sacchanang ananubodha appativeda evamidan digamadhanan sandhavitan sansaritang tumha kancheva mamancha. That means, yes, it's true. I also have been experiencing a long journey until now. That is his final or the last life as the Buddha. His generation, his existence will not be there after the death. This is the final life. But that's true. I have been experiencing a long journey. And also you, dear disciples, you have been also experiencing a long journey in this samsara. Why this long journey happened to me and for you? What was the reason? Why they didn't come to an end? Why this existence of the generation didn't come to an end until now? Because we didn't understand the Four Noble Truths. Chatunnancha bhikkhave ariya satchanam ananubodha. We couldn't understand these Four Noble Truths before. Because of that reason, we couldn't eliminate the defilements. We couldn't come to an end of this existence or this continuation in samsara. Because of that mere reason, we had to continue this samsara until now. Until now, you and me have been experiencing this samsara. Now, I have understood the Four Noble Truths by me, and this generation will not be there as a new life, as a rebirth. After the death of this life, then that continuation will not be there. New set of aggregates will not emerge after the death. New set of faculties will not emerge. The new set of elements will not emerge as a rebirth. This is the final existence. This is the final life. You also have understood these Four Noble Truths because I taught you. Now you understood, you achieved the Four Noble Paths and fruitions. Now you have eradicated all the defilements with the latent tendencies. Now your existence will not be there anymore after this life. After the death, new set of aggregates or new set of elements or new set of faculties will not emerge as a rebirth, as a living being. There will not be this existence anymore. This is a final life for you and for me. But earlier we didn't understand. We didn't understand these Four Noble Truths. What are the Four Noble Truths? The first one is the noble truth about the suffering. That is not mere the physical suffering and the mental suffering. All the realities, all the existences are subject to impermanence, suffering, and the non-self behavior. Because there are realities, that's true. Their existence is true. We have to believe that. We have to accept that. There are realities, they emerge, exist for a while, they will vanish within a few moments. That's true. But the emerging and vanishing is there. Because of that, they are not permanent. They cannot exist for a longer period as a single thing. That is impermanence. That is subject to every single element, every single reality is subject to the impermanence. And also, all these realities, all these existences, elements or the faculties, they are subject to the suffering. And also, there is no self. The existence or this generation is a non-self nature, non-self behavior. There is no self, there is no person, there is no living being there. So, we call them impermanent, suffering and non-self behavior or the nature. That we have to understand. And there are these realities, there are these elements, aggregates or the faculties which are subject to these natures, the qualities. These are subject to the impermanence, suffering and non-self behavior. That we have to understand. That is dukkha satcha, the noble truth about the suffering. And the second truth is the noble truth about the cause for the suffering, the reason for the suffering. That is the craving. The mere reason is craving. Because of that craving, we are subject to the suffering. The realities will arise as a generation without coming to an end. New set of realities will arise because until you eliminate, until you eradicate this craving towards this existence or towards these realities. That is we call the second noble truth of cause for the suffering. The third one is the noble truth about the cessation of the suffering. Yes, there is a liberation that you can experience by eradicating all the defilements. That is what we call the Nibbana or Nirodha, the liberation, the cessation of the suffering. When you achieve or when you attain that Nibbana, then the suffering is no more there. That is there, but we didn't understand that. Until now, we didn't understand there is a liberation, that we can eliminate all the sufferings and come to that state and achieve that state, the Nibbana. That is the third one. The fourth one is, yes, there are sufferings, there are causes for the suffering, and there is a liberation. And what we should do, we have to follow the path. The fourth noble truth is the noble truth about the path for the cessation of the suffering. Path for the cessation of the suffering. That path we didn't understand before. Now Buddha is saying, I understood that one, the path, and I followed that path, and I achieved the liberation, the Nibbana. Earlier, in the previous lives, I didn't understand these Four Noble Truths. Because of that, the continuation had happened as the generation of the aggregates, elements, or the faculties. Until now, until this life. And that was a long journey. I have been experiencing and you have been experiencing. But now we understood those Four Noble Truths and we eliminated the generation after this life. That generation or the existence or the continuation of these aggregates, elements or the faculties will not be there after the death as a rebirth. So, we have to think about us, about you. We are also still trying to understand these Four Noble Truths. Until we achieve, until we understood deeply these Four Noble Truths, this journey will be there. This continuation will be there. This existence as generations of aggregates will be there. Until we understand these Four Noble Truths by the noble paths. There are four noble paths. We call the Magga Jnanas. Until we understand these Four Noble Truths deeply by those Four Noble Paths, we have to continue this journey. We have to experience this samsara alone. That we cannot stop. That will not come to an end. That is the reason why this continuation, why this generation will not come to an end. Even though the specific aggregates are coming to an end, even though they vanish after the emerging of their and after their existence, they will come to an end, but the generation will continue. That continuation had happened because of the ignorance about these Four Noble Truths, because of the illusion towards these Four Noble Truths. Then we have to understand that is the reason behind this. Why these generation, why these the emergings will not come to an end, and why this samsara will continue as new lives, as rebirths. That is the reason behind this. That is elaborated by the Buddha to his disciples. That is the reason why this continuation will not come to an end. If you achieve, if you understand these Four Noble Truths by the noble paths, the generation will not continue. But what is the reason? What is the reason behind this emerging new set of aggregates or the faculties again and again? we learned why this generation will not come to an end. That is because of the delusion, or because not understanding about the Four Noble Truths. That is the reason, mere reason, why this continuation will not come to an end. But what is the reason of these emergings? Why this continuation happen? Why new set of aggregates or elements or faculties will emerge again and again? What is the reason behind this? We have to explore that one also. First, I will take a metaphor, a simile, because we can think about some energies in the physical world. We can experience, we can learn about those energies. There are many classifications about these energies, like kinetic energy, potential energy, heat energy or the thermal energy, some magnetic energy, electricity also an energy. These energies are there. In the physical world, we use these energies to make some efficient results, effective results. But can we see them? Can we see the kinetic energy? Can we see the potential energy? Can we see the thermal energy? No, we cannot see them. Because when we cannot see the energies, but we can see the results of those energies. If an object has the kinetic energy, it will move one place to another, or it will be trembling, it will be vibrating, or it will have a circular path around one point, circular movement. That has happened because it has some sort of energy we call the kinetic energy. Because of that kinetic energy, we can see the result. We can see the movements, vibration, or the circular movements. That is not the energy. Movement is not the energy. Vibrating is not the energy. That is the result of the energy, what it has. We cannot see the color of the energy. We cannot measure the weight of the energy. We cannot have a perception of that energy. But we can see the results of that energy, results of that kinetic energy. Potential energy. We cannot see the potential energy. But when we take an object to a higher elevation from one place, from a lower elevation to a higher elevation, then we say the potential energy will be stored in that object. Then when you release that object, it will come to the original place or the lower elevation because it had that potential energy. Because of that potential energy, it will come down, it will fall down. But that falling down is not the energy. That is a result of the potential energy which is stored in that object. When we talk about the thermal energy, if there are two iron balls on the table, one is in a normal condition, it is a cooled one. The other iron ball is very hot one. But by looking, you cannot identify the heat energy which is stored in that hot iron ball. But when you touch it, you can experience the result. You will burn yourself, or you can make fire out of that iron ball. That fire or that burning is not the energy. That is a result of that energy. That is a result of that thermal or the heat energy. We cannot see the energy. We can only see the results of those energies. That is the normal understanding. We cannot see the energies, but we can see their results, some sort of results. Likewise, do you accept, do you agree that kind of an energy is stored with us? By default, we have that kind of an energy. I'm not talking about the kinetic energies, potential energies with our body. But there is an energy called the akusala energy, unmeritorious energy within ourselves by default. We cannot see them, we cannot experience that energy. You can cognize that energy by the vipassana, but that akusala energy you cannot see. Sometimes even you cannot recognize that kind of an energy is there within yourself by default. But like the kinetic energies, you cannot see the kinetic energy, but you can see the results. You cannot see the potential energy, but you can see the results. You cannot see the thermal energy, but you can see the results of that energy. Likewise, even though you cannot experience those akusala energy, even though you cannot see those unmeritorious energy, you can see or you can experience the results of those akusala energy. What is this akusala energy? Anusaya. There are 7 categories of these akusala energy. Anusayas, sapta anusayas, 7 anusayas. We call them the latent defilements. Latent tendencies. It is a tendency or potency within ourselves, stored in ourselves by default. But we cannot see them, we cannot experience them when they are in the tendency, when they are in a latent level, when they are in the sleeping state. You cannot even recognize that kind of an anusaya is there in yourself. But even though you cannot experience those akusala energy or the anusaya, the results are visible. When you experience, when you take an very preferable object, what you like to associate, the craving emerges. The craving will arise in yourself as a lobha chitta, as the craving. That you can experience, that you can identify, recognize as a lobha chitta, the craving mind. When you are experiencing, when you are associating a disliking object, then you can experience the aversion. You will strike with that object. You don't like that one. You will have a hatred feeling. Sometimes you will have a jealousy feeling or envy towards that object. That can be identified or experienced by you. When these defilements were in the latent level, in the sleeping state, you cannot identify them, you cannot experience them, but they are there in yourself by default. But when they come to the manifestation, when they are manifesting as craving mind, hatred mind, delusion mind, envy, like sleeping states, though when the defilements come to the manifestation, when they come to the surface of the mind, then you can understand and you can realize, oh, the craving is with me, the hatred feeling is with me, the delusion or the illusion with me. Those defilements are visible in me. They are the results. But these results were created by the anusayas. The latent defilements were there within yourself by default, but they were sleeping. They were sleeping as in the latent level. But when your mind is associating a suitable environment for the craving, then the craving emerges. Craving will arise. When you are associating a suitable environment or suitable reasons, causes, which are suitable for the hatred feeling or the envy, for the jealousy, these mindset will be there as a result. They were created by the anusayas, the latent defilements. That you have to understand. That is some sort of energy within ourselves. We cannot see the energy, we cannot experience those energies, but you can cognize them. There are these kind of tendencies, there are these kind of potencies within me. that because of that potency, with the suitable environment, the craving arises, the hatred feelings arises, the delusion arises. Because of that understanding, you can come to a conclusion, okay, there are some latent levels, potencies within me, that you can cognize them with the vipassana, with the insight meditation. Other than that, you cannot experience them until they come to the manifestation, until they come to the surface of the mind. That you have to understand. We have that kind of akusala energy with ourselves by default. Every putujjana, every living being who have not eradicated these latent defilements completely by the arahanta magga, the path of the arahant. Only the arahants don't have these latent defilements. Other than even the anagami person will have some sort of defilements, latent defilements in the latent level, sleeping state. Every putujjana has all the latent defilements, the 7 categories, all the classifications of these latent defilements. That we have to understand. Until we eradicate these, all the latent defilements by the 4 noble paths, by the Sotapatti Magga, the path of the stream entry, you will eradicate some latent defilements. By the Sakadagami Magga, the path of the once returner, then you will not eradicate completely defilements, but you will suppress. You will reduce the power of some latent defilements. By the Anagami Magga, by the path of the non-returner, then you will eradicate some other latent defilements. By the Arahantas Magga, the path of the Arahant, then all the remaining latent defilements will be eradicated. Then he is free from the latent defilements, then the results will not be visible in that mind. Within that arahant, the latent defilements are not visible because the energy is not there. Because this akusala energy is not there, the results are also not visible. What are the results? The akusala consciousnesses, unmeritorious consciousnesses. The unmeritorious consciousnesses will not be visible in the arahants because the source or the cause will not be there. What is the cause? The akusala energy, the anusaya, latent defilements. When the cause is not there, when the latent defilements are not there, then the results are not visible. What are the results? The akusala chittas, unmeritorious mindsets or unmeritorious consciousnesses. They will not be visible in arahant's mind. Because of that reason, because of the eradication of the latent defilements, then the continuation of this generation of the faculties, elements or the aggregates will not be there after the death. When the arahant experience the death of that same life, the generation will not be continued as a rebirth. The arahant will not have a rebirth. That aggregates, new set of aggregates or new set of elements or new set of faculties will not be there as a rebirth. Because he has eradicated all the latent defilements, all the root causes to emerge new set of aggregates as a rebirth, as a new life. Then he can come to the end of the samsara. But what about the others? When we take about the putujjanas have all the root causes, all the latent defilements. Because of that, the samsara will not come to an end. Samsara will be continued. Samsara will be there. The new set of aggregates will be emerging again and again as a rebirth. Even though he die, new set of aggregates will come to the emerging state and they will exist and they will vanish. New set of aggregates will emerge again and again. That will not be stopped. For the Putujjanas, that is the reason behind this generation, behind this existence. We have the akusala energy. We have to understand that there are no kusala energy. Arahant, when someone is attaining the arahantship, arahanthood, for the entire samsara, that person was there with the akusala energy, unmeritorious energy, with these latent defilements. Because of that, he had to experience a long samsara without coming to an end. But because he was with the akusala energy, he was doing many kusalas, he was doing meditation, he was doing many meritorious deeds, but he was with the akusala energy. Even though he is with the akusala energy, he was trying to do the meritorious deeds in order to attain the Four Noble Truths, in order to attain the liberation. Then he succeeded. When he achieved the arahanthood, he is eliminating all the akusala energies, all the latent defilements, but he is not attaining or he is not achieving a kusala energy. There is no such a state with kusala energy. Only state is there with the akusala energy, anusayas, latent defilements. That is the akusala energy, unmeritorious energy. The only thing you can do is eradicate this akusala energy and come to a state without the akusala energy. Otherwise, after removing the akusala energy, you cannot generate or you cannot have a kusala energy. That is what happened to the arahant. After a long journey, after practicing this path, after the very effortful training, he eradicated all the latent defilements, that is akusala energy, unmeritorious energy. By the arahant's path, he eradicated all these akusala energy and he came to a state without the akusala energy. Then after, he cannot, the akusala chittas, he cannot do the akusala kammas. Even though he cannot do the kusala kammas as well. Because akusala chittas will not be visible there because there are no akusala energies. But what happened to the kusala? After becoming an arahant, he cannot do kusala kammas and he cannot do akusala kammas. Akusala kammas we can identify, we can recognize. Okay, because of the akusala energy, these akusala kammas will arise. When the reasons are eradicated, when the akusala energy is completely eradicated, okay, that akusala kammas will not be there. Arahants will not have the akusala kammas. Akusala kamma is what? After doing the kamma, some sort of kammic energy will be stored in that mind, which will produce some bad effects, bad results in future. That is the akusala kamma. What is kusala kamma? After doing, when you are doing that action, the meritorious deed, some sort of kammic energy, some sort of energy will be stored in that mind that will produce some good results, pleasurable results, blissful results in future, in the next lives. That is what we call akusala kamma and kusala kamma. Akusala kamma also storing some energy, kammic energy in the mind. Kusala kammas also storing some kammic energy in the mind. We call that kamma samangita or kamma satti. That those can produce good or bad results in the future. Akusala kammas will produce bad results in future. Kusala kammas will produce good results in the future. But what happened to the Arahant? After becoming an Arahant, he has eradicated all the akusala energy. But what happened? After that, he cannot do kammas in kusala level and akusala level. Even though he does good things, like he can preach Dhamma, he can meditate, he can develop the jhanas, he can develop the vipassana, he can maintain the mindfulness, he can help the others, he can offer danas. These good things he can do. But what happened? All these kammas, just mere actions, they cannot store something in his mind as kammic energy, which will produce something, which will produce good results in future. That means he doesn't have akusala energy in himself, within himself, and he doesn't have the kusala energy even. There is no such a state of kusala energy. In the living beings, there is a state called the akusala energy. Until you eradicate this akusala energy, until you become an arahant, you have to be with these akusala energies, with this entire samsara. The only thing you can do is eradicate this akusala energy and come to a normal state without kusala energy or without akusala energy. There's no such a state with the kusala energy. Only thing you can do is eradicate the anusayas, latent defilements, akusala energy. That we have to understand. Let's take a putujjana, a normal person, because he is with all the akusala energy. Because of that akusala energy, akusala kammas arise. He can do akusala kammas which will store some sort of kammic energy which will give bad results in the future. Because of that akusala energy, that is a very important thing. Because of that akusala energy within himself, he can do kusala kammas which will store some sort of good kammic energy which will give good result, blissful results in the future. That is why in Dhammapada it is said, when you do kusala kammas, when you do akusala kammas, these kammic force, kammic energy will chase you. If you have done the kusala kammas, they will chase you, and this energy, the kammic energy will chase you and make good results. It will produce good results. If you have done bad kammas, akusala deeds, unmeritorious deeds, they will also chase you and produce bad results in the future, in the samsara. That we have to understand. We can, for a putujjana or who have not achieved the arahanthood, anyone can do the kusala kammas because they have the remaining akusala energy with themselves. When this akusala energy is eradicated completely, he cannot do akusala kammas and he cannot do kusala kammas even. That is the nature of this akusala energy. Because of that akusala energy, samsara will continue. Because of that akusala energy, non-stopping generation will be there. Because of that unmeritorious energy, akusala energy, even though the set of aggregates will come to the vanishing stage, even though they vanish, new set of aggregates, new set of faculties, new set of elements will emerge within ourselves. The samsara will continue. What is the mere reason for this emerging again and again without coming to an end of the generation? This akusala energy. We call the anusaya as a technical Dhamma term. These anusayas are the mere reason, the root cause to have these emergings again and again without coming to an end of the generation. That we have to understand. Let's think about our usual day. When we think about our normal behavior, usually we are associating very oftenly the akusala chittas. We are with the craving. When we consider the chittas, the majority, what we associate in a single day, the majority will be with the craving, with the hatred feeling, and with the delusion. Those akusala chittas are associated by us in a normal day. That we cannot reject. We have to accept that. Even without much effort, these craving minds, hatred minds, delusion minds will be emerging without effort, like a habit. When there is a pleasurable thing what we like, the craving mind arises. You don't have to take much effort to make a produce. You don't have to make much effort to produce a craving mind. Usually it arises. We can say it automatically arises, but there are reasons. Without causes, nothing will arise. There are reasons, that's true. But when we compare with the effort is negligible. Without much effort, like automatically, these craving minds, hatred minds, delusion minds will be arising. Why? Because we have the akusala energy with ourselves by default. Because this ground of the akusala energy, because of reason of the akusala energies, these akusala mindset will come to the manifestation without much effort. That is the normal condition of us. You and me also, for you also, for me also, for all the living beings. That is the usual behavior. Without much effort, the akusala chittas come to the manifestation from the latent tendency level. Because we are having latent tendencies for the akusalas, but we don't have latent tendencies for the kusalas. There are no such states. There are no latent levels of kusala. Otherwise, with the suitable environments, automatically, without much efforts, the kusala chittas should come to the manifestation, should come to the surface level of the mind. But it will not happen. We only have the akusala energy, latent tendencies for the akusalas, anusayas. Because of that reason, because of that ground, when we associate a suitable environment for those latent tendencies, they come to the manifestation without having much effort, without having much energy. They will come to the manifestation automatically. Every time, every moment, they will come to the manifestation. But when we compare about the kusala chittas, wholesome minds, what is the condition? We don't have latent tendencies for the kusalas. We don't have the latent tendencies for the kusalas. We don't have a kusala energy with ourselves by default. Because of that, even though we are experiencing a suitable environment, suitable conditions which are suitable for the kusalas, for the wholesome minds, they don't come to the manifestation automatically. They don't come to the manifestation without much effort. When we want to produce a kusala chittas, when we want to meditate, when we want to observe sila and protect the sila, virtue, when we want to listen to Dhamma, when we want to give offering, dana, when we want to read Dhamma book, these are the kusala chittas, kusala mindsets. Even though you want to produce these kind of kusala chittas again and again, what you have to do? You have to exert huge effort to produce these kinds of kusala minds, wholesome minds. You have to exert your wisdom. You have to exert your wisdom effortfully. You have to maintain the mindfulness wisely in order to produce these kind of kusala mindsets, wholesome minds. In order to maintain this wholesome mindset. When you give up the effort, when you give up the wisdom, when you give up the mindfulness, these wholesome mindsets will also vanish, will disappear. Then again you have to exert much effort. Again you have to use your mind, use your wisdom effortfully. You have to maintain your mindfulness wisely in order to produce those kinds of wholesome minds within you and maintain them, and maintain for a longer period. Why? Akusala minds will come to the manifestation automatically without much effort, then they will exist for a longer period. When you have a craving, sometimes it will be there for days, for weeks, sometimes for years. When you have hatred feeling, sometimes it will stay there, it will exist, it will come to the manifestation again and again for a while. Without much effort. You don't have to exert effort again and again in order to produce these kind of craving minds, hatred minds. But for the kusala minds, for the wholesome minds, that is different. You don't have latent tendencies for the kusala, for the wholesome side. That is why we have to exert huge effort. You have to use your wisdom, you have to use your mindfulness in order to produce them. Because you have to suppress the akusala energy within you by default. You have to suppress those anusayas, latent defilements with you. Without giving a chance to the unwholesome minds, you have to exert much effort. You have to use your wisdom. You have to use your mindfulness in order to produce kusala mindsets by suppressing the akusalas. That is the reason. Because we don't have the latent tendency levels for the wholesome side. That we have to understand. One day you can eliminate those akusala energies, latent tendencies for the defilements completely by the path of the Arahants. Then the kusala is no need after that. Why you need kusalas? For us today, we need the kusalas. Why? The primary objective for the kusalas is to suppress the akusalas or eradicate completely the akusalas. Sometimes by using the kusalas, we suppress the akusalas for a certain period. By observing sila, by doing meditation, by listening to Dhamma, by doing some danas, offerings, we are doing some kusala activities, wholesome activities. During that period, we are suppressing, we are not giving a chance for the akusalas to come to the manifestation. That is we call the suppressing. Sometimes by the noble paths, there are also kusalas, there are also wholesome minds. By those special kusalas, you can eradicate completely those akusalas. That is the primary objective of the kusalas. What is the primary objective? Suppressing or eradicating or eliminating the akusalas in that very moment. In that very moment, you can suppress that. That is the use of kusalas. As putujjanas, we need kusalas because we have to suppress the akusalas. They are bad kammas which will produce bad results in the future. They can take a living being to a woeful realm. They can take a living being to the animal realm, animal world. They can take a person to the Petas world and the kusala kammas. Because akusala kammas will have a bad results in the samsara. That is why we need to suppress them. That is why we need to eliminate them. The equipment is the kusala. By using the kusalas, we can suppress them for a longer period or a very shorter period, or you can eliminate them completely. The kusalas, the primary objective of kusala is suppressing or eliminating the akusalas. The secondary result is they will produce good results in the future lives, in future. The kusala kammas will take you to the divine world. Kusala kammas will take you to the Brahma world. They will make blissful, pleasurable, desirable results in the future lives. That is a secondary objective. What is the primary objective? At the very moment when you produce kusala or the wholesome mind, at the very moment it will suppress or it will eliminate the akusalas. That is the very useful thing at that very moment. That is the primary objective. Therefore, we need kusalas. We have to produce kusalas again and again because we have to avoid, we have to suppress, we want to eradicate these kusalas from our mind. That will be accomplished completely by the path of the Arahant. That is the use of kusalas. Then we can understand what is the benefit and what is the importance of the kusalas. Now, as Putujjanas, we are with the latent tendencies. We have, for the Putujjana, all the latent tendencies. 100% latent tendencies are there within himself by default. You cannot say, no, I don't have those latent tendencies if you are a Putujjana. If you are a Putujjana, you are with all sort of latent tendencies. You have to agree that, you have to accept that. But we want to give up them. We want to get rid of these akusala energies because they are making bad results in this very life and in the future samsara. What is the way out from these bad energies? Kusala. We cannot produce a kusala energy. There is no such a state. There is no such latent tendency level for wholesome side. But time to time we can produce, we can associate these kusala minds, wholesome activities in order to suppress these akusala energies to a certain level. That we have to do until we achieve the noble paths. By step we can eradicate these akusala energies, and you can completely eradicate them by the path of an Arahant. But we have to do it today itself, without delaying, without postponing. Why? Buddha is giving ajjeva kiccama tappang ko janya maranang suve. Because we are wishing, we are expecting to suppress this akusala energy to a certain level or to completely eradicate them one day. But we don't know. We will live there in this life, in tomorrow. We cannot exactly say that we will have a tomorrow in this life. That is why Buddha is advising, admonishing, ajjeva kiccama tappa. Yes, you have to develop the kusalas. You have to do the wholesome deeds, wholesome activities. You have to suppress and eradicate these akusala energies from your mind. But you have to do it within today itself. Because the death, you cannot come to an agreement with the death. Nahino sangarang tena maha senena machuna. Because the death, if we consider the death as a person, there is no agreement with the death. There are no conditions. You can come to an agreement with any person in this world with some conditions. Then he will agree to your conditions, you will agree to that person's conditions, and you can have a mutual agreement within you. But there are no such agreements with the death. Maha senena machuna. And also it has the death has a very huge army, very powerful army, very vast army. What is this very powerful, big army? Because the death has many ways. There are many ways to die. We have to understand that we do everything in this very life in order to avoid the death. Let's take, we are taking the food in order to maintain our life, because we know if we don't take food for few days, we will have to suffer and sometimes we will have to die. Because of that, we have to take foods every day without stopping. If we stop taking foods, then the death will happen. But how many people came to the death because of the food? Some sort of foods blocked, and that can cause for the death. But he took the food in order to avoid the death, in order to maintain the life without coming to the death. But because of that very food, the death occurred. When we take about the medicines, why we take medicines? Because we need to cure, we need to recover the sickness, the illness. That is why we take medicines. But how many people died because of the medicines? Because of the wrong medicines, because of the bad effects of the medicines. Many people will die because of the medicines, what they took to avoid the death. But ultimately, death occurred because of that medicine, what he took for the life, for the recovery. When we consider about the shelters, the home, everyone need a shelter, everyone need a house in order to avoid the bad conditions of the environment. That means in order to avoid the sun, in order to avoid the wind, the rain and other very dangerous animals, you need a shelter, you need a house, covering place or lodging place. But how many people died because of that residence? They will fall down to themselves and it will be the cause for the death. But they built that house in order to continue the life, in order to avoid the death. But because of that very building, because of that house, the death occurred. But he never expected that one. Those kind of things can happen. That is why it is given Mahasenena Machuna. Because the death has a great army. There are many ways that can cause for the death. And the other thing is, there are no any single condition, single agreement with this death. When the death wants to take you, when the death will occur, you cannot come to an agreement, okay, I can take few more days, few more months, few more years without coming to the death. There are no such agreements. That is why that is not sure. You cannot say exactly whether we will be there, whether we will live there for tomorrow. That is why Buddha is admonishing, Ajjeva kiccama tappang. You have to do these meritorious deeds. You have to practice. You have to follow the path today itself. Otherwise you have to regret. Because there are no agreements with the death. Death can come to you any time, any place, in any way. Because it has a great army. They can conquer you and they can take you to the death. That is why Buddha is admonishing, don't delay this. Don't postpone this to follow this training, to follow this path. That is true. We have to follow this path today itself. But I know the saying is somewhat easy. But doing practically, this is very difficult. It is not an easy task to practice this, to follow this path, to follow this training. That is too difficult. That can be recognized by you. That can be recognized by anyone. Because yes, this is true. We have to do it quickly. You have to do it today itself. You have to start it today itself. But that is not that much easy. That is a very difficult path, difficult training, that we have to exert so much effort. You have to maintain your wisdom. You have to maintain the mindfulness each and every time, continuously. That is understood by the Buddha as well. Because Buddha, as the Bodhisattva, as the ascetic Sumedha, he had the chance, because he met the Dipankara Buddha, and he had the chance, he had fulfilled all the qualifications to become an Arahant. To become an Arahant, he had all the qualifications. Within one verse, after listening one verse, within that verse, he could have achieved the Arahanthood, and he could have ended up the entire samsara. After that life, he will not continue the samsara. He had that chance, but he rejected that chance. He gave up that chance to become an Arahant. He wanted to help the living beings, the entire world, by preaching Dhamma as a Buddha. He wanted to become a Buddha one day, like the Dipankara Buddha, and he wanted to help the other living beings, because he understood these living beings are suffering, and they are in a samsara, continuing samsara, without coming to an end. The suffering is huge. There is no end in this samsara. So I should help these living beings after becoming a Buddha. I want to help these living beings by preaching Dhamma. I want to help them to achieve the liberation, to end this samsara. That is the mere objective of that Bodhisattva. After that, after longer periods, after many eons, he fulfilled all the qualifications and he became the Buddha. What is the main purpose to become a Buddha? In order to preach Dhamma. Why he wanted to preach Dhamma? To help the living beings. To help the living beings to end this samsara by achieving the liberation, by achieving the Nibbana. He wanted to help the living beings by preaching Dhamma. That is the mere objective. Not just to achieve the liberation for himself. If he wanted to achieve the liberation, he could have done that in front of the Dipankara Buddha as the ascetic Sumedha. He had all the qualification. But by becoming a Buddha, his main objective is not his own liberation. He wanted to achieve the liberation, but he wanted to help the living beings by preaching Dhamma, by helping the living beings to achieve the liberation. But after becoming a Buddha, sooner he had a thought. Kiccena me adigatang halandani pakasitum. Raga dosa paretehi nayan dhammu susambuddho. That means, yes, I understood all the Four Noble Truths by myself without having help, without having a teacher. I did this by myself. That's true. And it is not an easy task. I had many difficulties. I understood this Dhamma in a very difficult manner. Kiccena me adigatang. I understood with so much effort, with exerting much effort, after spending much time, many eons. After spending many eons in a difficult manner, I understood this Dhamma. I achieved this liberation. I became a Buddha. Why I became Buddha? To preach Dhamma. But halandani pakasitu. Now, the Buddha was thinking, if I preach Dhamma, will they understand? Will the living beings understand my Dhamma? Will they be able to achieve the liberation? Will they understand the deep levels of these noble truths? He had this kind of a reluctance. He had that kind of a thought. Yes, I became a Buddha in a difficult manner. But can I preach Dhamma now? Will they understand my Dhamma? Will they be able to achieve the liberation? Will they be able to understand the deep levels of the noble truths? Raga dosa paretehi nayan dhammosu sambuddho. That means because these living beings are full of defilements. They have the craving feelings, hatred feelings. They are with the delusion feelings. They are covered with the illusion. They cannot understand this Dhamma. This is very deep. I also understood this Dhamma in a very difficult manner. I don't think that these living beings will understand this Dhamma. This is very difficult. It will not be an easy task. That is the thought what a Buddha had after spending many eons to become a Buddha. That is a very special occasion. He spent all these eons and he was exerting that kind of huge effort to become a Buddha in order to preach Dhamma, in order to help these living beings. Now he is thinking, these living beings are full of defilements. They are covered with the delusion. They will not be able to achieve this. They will not be able to understand this deep Dhamma. Then the Sahampati, Mahabrahma, a Brahma being, came to him and requested, urged, and made the invitation. Bhante, dear sir, please preach Dhamma. There are several living beings who are like flower pods. They are like waiting for the blossom by your Dhamma. There are wise living beings there who can understand your Dhamma and attain the liberation. Therefore, don't have that kind of thought within you. Please preach Dhamma. Please start preaching Dhamma to the living beings. There will be many living beings who can understand your Dhamma. That is what happened at the very beginning, before the Buddha started the preaching Dhamma. Buddha had that feeling. Buddha had that thought because there are many reasons. Buddha had that kind of a thought because these living beings are not be able to understand my Dhamma because they are full of defilements. There are some reasons why Buddha had such kind of a thought. Because the Buddha has not started the preaching yet. But the Sahampati Mahabrahma is a well-reputed one within the wise person, within the community. And he is a very respected one within the community. When the Buddha started the preaching Dhamma, based on the invitation of that well-reputed, respected Mahabrahma, then the people, that community will accept that Dhamma in a very suitable manner, in a very respectful manner. That is one reason. There are other reasons as well. But anyway, the Buddha also thought, this is not an easy task. This should be done in a very difficult manner. Even the Buddha knows, even the Buddha preached Dhamma, this understanding thing or this practicing or the following the path is not an easy task. That we know. But anyway, there is no any other solution other than following this path, other than this practice, other than understanding the Dhamma, other than understanding the Four Noble Truths and attaining the Four Noble Paths. That is the only thing what we can do in order to end up this samsara. That we have to do, and we should not delay that one. We should not postpone that one. We have to do it within today itself. In that way, we can understand it is a very difficult thing. But the important thing is, these things should be done by oneself. If you want to achieve this, if you want to end up your samsara, if you want to experience the end of this generation or the existence, you should do that by yourself. anyone cannot do on behalf of you. That is why Buddha is saying, Tittateva Nibbana, Tittati Nibbanagami Maggo, Tittamahan Samadapeta. Buddha is saying, advising to one Brahmin, there is the Nibbana. That is the truth. The liberation is there always, because there is no beginning of that liberation. There is no end or vanishing of that liberation, the Nibbana. The liberation was there in the past, liberation is now. Liberation is there now, and liberation will be there. Forever the liberation will be there. Nibbana will be there. Nibbanagami maggo, tittateva nibbanagami maggo. That means, if you want to achieve, if you want to attain that liberation, yes, the path is also there. If someone is following that path, any time they can achieve the liberation. That is true. Liberation is also there, and the path for that liberation, that means the cessation of the suffering is there. The path for the cessation of the suffering is also there. Tittamahan samadapeta. And as a Buddha, I am also there. I am showing the path. I am teaching the Dhamma for the disciples. Anyone can listen to my Dhamma and follow the path and attain the liberation. That is true. If someone is listening to my Dhamma, if someone is practicing this Dhamma, if someone is training with my admonishments, he can follow the path and attain the liberation. That is exactly true. There is no any fault in this liberation or the path or the teaching of me. Those all the things are true. But attachapana mama savaka maya evang odiyamana evang anusasiyamana appe kacche achantan nittan nibbhanang aradhenti e kacche naradhenti. That means, even though the liberation is there forever, even though the path for the liberation is there, even though the Buddha is there like me, who is preaching Dhamma, who is advising to follow that path, some disciples are following my advices, admonishments, and they are following the path. And definitely they will attain the Nibbana. Definitely they will come to the end of samsara. But what happened to the others? Even though they are disciples of me, they are not following my advices, my instructions. They are following some other things. They will not attain the liberation. That is their responsibility, because liberation is there, the path for the liberation is there, and I also there as the Buddha to show the path, to preach Dhamma, to give the advices, instructions. But the responsibility is with the disciple to follow that path and achieve the liberation. That I cannot do that on behalf of them. Etta kyaham brahmana karomi Maggakkaiham brahmana tatagato. Tathagata, the Buddha, is only a person who is giving the guidance, who is showing the path, who is preaching Dhamma. The Buddha cannot take someone to the liberation on behalf of them. The disciple has to take the path. Disciple has to do this effortfully, by the wisdom, by the mindfulness. Otherwise, they cannot achieve the liberation. That is up to the disciple. That is why Buddha is saying, Tumhehi kiccha matappang akkhataro tathagata patipanna pamokkanti jhaino marabandhana. That means the Buddha is just a teacher who is showing the path, who is giving the guidance to the liberation. But tumhehi kiccha matappa, you are the one who should follow this. You are the one who should do this effortfully with the wisdom and the mindfulness. You are the one who should do these all the activities, all the wholesome activities, and you are the one who achieve the liberation one day. I cannot do that. The Buddha cannot do that on behalf of you. When someone wants to go to a destination, a town or a village, a wise person can show the path. Exact path, accurately, he can show the path with the road signs. But for the first person who wanted to go to that destination, the following the accurate instruction or not is up to him. Even though the second wise person who showed the path accurately, if the first person who wanted to go to that destination, if he is not following the instruction properly, then he will not come to the destination. If someone is following the instruction as the second person said, showed, then he will come to the destination. Accurately he can come to the destination. Because the following the instruction or not is up to the disciple. Likewise, Buddha can show the path, Buddha can give the instructions, he can impose the rules and regulations, he can appreciate, he can show the benefits of Nibbana or achieving the Nibbana, he can show the drawbacks of the samsara, but all the other things are up to the disciple. Disciple himself has to do all these things, has to do the practice. That is the responsibility of the disciple. Other things cannot be done by the Buddha. He cannot take the disciples to the Nibbana on behalf of them. That we have to understand. Now we have discussed what is this existence, what is samsara, why the samsara will not come to an end, what is the reason behind that, and why this generation or the existence will continue without coming to an end, why these emergings, why this new set of aggregates will emerge again and again after one another without coming to them, without stopping. Then we discussed the akusala energy behind this as the reason, the root cause. And because of that akusala energy, what would happen to us? That is the energy or the food for the samsara. In order to suppress that akusala energy, we have to develop the kusalas. In order to eliminate or eradicate this akusala energy completely one day, we have to develop the kusalas. There is no any other way to suppress akusalas or eliminate akusalas. There are no medicines, there are no special remedies for this this suppression or the elimination other than developing kusalas. We have to develop these kusalas. Then we discuss, we have to develop kusalas, that's true. But that is not an easy task. We have to develop that even though it is difficult. Today itself we have to do that without delaying, without postponing. And also, Buddha has also recognized that is not easy for the disciples because they are full, they are with the defilements. They are covered with the delusion. That is also true. But we have to do that because there is no any other solution. Without developing the wholesome deeds, we cannot suppress or we cannot eliminate the akusalas. We cannot end up the samsara. Then we discuss, everything should be done by ourselves. The Buddha is there to show the path, but the things we have to do by ourselves. We have to practice by ourselves. We have to develop the kusalas by ourselves. That is the path or the practice. And what we have to do and how we have to do that. Now we know to suppress this akusala energy or eradicate this akusala energy, we have to develop kusalas. How the Buddha is advising to develop kusalas? Adi meva visodehi kusalesu dhammesu. That is true. The kusala is the main equipment or the tool to suppress or eradicate the akusalas. But Buddha is advising or admonishing, the very beginning of that kusala practice should be purified. Adi meva visodehi kusalesu dhammesu. You should purify the practice of kusala. You should purify the wholesome practice at the very beginning. What is the beginning of this? What is the very beginning of this wholesome practice? Kochadi kusalanam dhammanam. What is the very beginning of this wholesome practice, wholesome training? Silancha suvisuddhang, ditticha ujukha. There are two remedies we can take in order to purify the very beginning of this wholesome practice. What are those two remedies? Silancha suvisuddhang. You have to purify your virtue by following a moral conduct, by observing 5 precepts for the lay devotees or higher moral conducts. You can purify your virtue, morality. That should be a purified way. You have to develop to a purified level. That is the first remedy, first step. What is the second step? Ditticha ujukha. You have to strengthen, you have to make straight your ditti, your correct view. You have to avoid the wrong views, miccha dittis, and you have to develop the correct view. That is the second remedy or the second step. Because the sila or the virtue is very important for this wholesome practice. And also you should have a correct view towards the liberation, towards this practice. At the very beginning you should have the kamma, kamma phala, believing in kamma and kamma phala. You should believe, you should have that understanding, correct view towards the kamma and kamma phala. These are good deeds, these are bad deeds. Good deeds will give good results. Bad deeds will produce bad results. That is the very basic understanding, very basic correct view in this practice. And there are other sammadittis, other correct views, like kammasakata sammaditthi is the believing in kamma and kamma phala, actions and their results. And there are jhana sammaditthi, because when you are developing the concentration, the correct view will develop. Vipassana sammaditthi, when you are developing the insight meditation, your correct view will be developed in a very good level. And the magga sammaditthi is when you are eradicating the latent defilements step by step, these correct view will be achieved. Phala sammaditthi, when you eradicated, after the eradication of the defilements, you will come to a phala sammaditthi, a very higher level correct view. There are many different states of this correct view, but anyway, at least you should have the very basic levels of this correct view. If someone is having that purified virtue and the correct view, then his very beginning of this wholesome practice is purified. He can go to the higher levels of this practice. First, we have to purify the very beginning of this wholesome practice. That is the compulsory thing before you start this wholesome practice. And the other thing we have to understand is this practice. The whole training is gradual one. Anupubba sikha, anupubba kiriya, anupubba patipada. Buddha is elaborating this path in a gradual way. Anupubba sikha, the tormenting method, where you torment yourself, should be done gradually. You cannot jump into the middle and do very big things suddenly. You should come to that level gradually, continuously. You have to understand that. Without jumping to different states, you should follow this path. You should develop this training gradually. Anupubba kiriya, there are actions, there are steps you have to follow. There are things you have to do. Those are those are also should be done gradually. And the Anupubba Patipada, the practice or the training also should be completed in gradual way, because you cannot skip some parts and jump into the middle. So Anupubba Sikha, Anupubba Kiriya, Anupubba Patipada, you have to develop this training in a very gradual way, because it should be done in that way, because it is the Buddha's advice, admonishment. Then also Buddha is elaborating Katancha Bhikkave Anupubba Sikha, Anupubba Kiriya, Anupubba Patipada Anyaradhana Hoti. How a person, how a practitioner, how a disciple can develop this practice gradually. He is giving some gradual steps for this achievements. First, Saddha Jato Upasankamati. That means when someone is having the faith towards this practice, towards the Buddha, towards the Dhamma, and towards the disciple, the Sangha. If someone is having the faith towards the Nibbana, yes, there is a liberation, and there is a path for the liberation. There is a samsara, there is a next life for me. He believes in that. Because of that saddha, because of that faith, he will come to the good people. He will go to the Satpurisa. He will go to the Kalyana Mitta. He will go to the good friends. Saddha Jato Upasankamati. Because of the faith, he will go to the good friends. Upasankamanto Payurupasati. If someone is going to the good friends very oftenly, then he will come to the conversation. He is having the conversation with them, with the good friends. That is the benefit of that person, what he can get because of the saddha. Because of the faith, he went to the good friends. Because of going to the good friends very oftenly, then he will have some conversations. He is associating those good friends very oftenly. Pairupasanto sotang udahati. That means when someone is associating such kind of good friends very oftenly, then he will pay his attention towards their words, towards this conversation. Pairupasanto sotang udahati. Then he tends to listen to them. Ohita soto dhammang sunati. Because he is paying the attention, because he is listening to their words, he can listen to Dhamma. Because during those conversations, he can listen Dhamma facts. He can listen to Dhamma. Ohita soto dhammang sunati. Sutva dhamman dhareti. That means when he listens to Dhamma, not only he listen to Dhamma, he will keep these Dhamma facts in his mind. He will memorize these things by heart. Dhammang sutva dhareti. When he listens to Dhamma, he tends to keep these Dhamma facts in his mind. He will tend to memorize these things by heart. Dathanang dhammanang attanang upaparikkati. That means he not only memorizes these Dhamma facts, he tries to understand, he tries to contemplate the meaning, deep meanings of these Dhammas. Dathanang dhammanang attang upaparikkati. He tries to understand the deep levels, deep meanings of these Dhamma facts. Attang upaparikkanto dhammani jhana kamanti. Yeah. Now he memorized the Dhamma. First he listened to Dhamma. He memorized Dhamma. Then he contemplated about the deep levels, deep meanings of these Dhamma. Then the deep levels are visible for him. He can understand the deep levels of the Dhamma. Because earlier, at the very beginning, he listened to Dhamma, he memorized the Dhamma, he was contemplating about Dhamma, but the deep meanings are not visible to him. When he is contemplating again and again, continuously, these deep meanings will be visible for his knowledge, for his wisdom, because his wisdom will be developed. attang upaparikkanto dhamma nijjhana kamanti. Dhamma nijjhana kantiya sati chando jayati. Dhamma nijjhana kantiya sati chando jayati. When these deep levels, deep meanings are visible to his wisdom, then chando jayati. Because these deep levels, deep meanings are visible to his wisdom, that the deep encouragement, chando, will be arising within himself. He is very obsessed to do that practice, to listen to Dhamma again and again, to learn that Dhamma again and again, to understand the deep levels of Dhamma. That encouragement, that enthusiasm will be there within himself. Jata chando ussaheti. With that encouragement, he will put much effort than before to learn Dhamma, to understand Dhamma, to develop this practice, to attain something within this practice. Because now the encouragement is developed within himself. Because of that developed encouragement, he is exerting more effort, much effort than he exerted before. Jata chando ussaheti, ussahetva tulayati. Then, because of that effort, because of that developed effort, he is trying to contemplate, he is trying to compare these Dhammas with the practical scenarios, with the internal and external things. He tries to compare this thing. He tries to engage these Dhammas with his practical life, with his own life. Tulayitva padahati. Because when he, after comparing this Dhamma with the practical scenarios, with the practical existence, then he can understand, yes, the Dhamma is not just a teaching. This is the existence of me. This is the existence of all the living beings. So I should understand this. This is the ultimate truth of me. This is what is happening to me. This is what has happened in the past, what is happening now, and what will happen in the future. These are the ultimate truths. Tulayitva padahati. He can establish on that Dhamma in a very stable position. Then also he can do the meditation, he can do the concentration, he can develop the concentration, and he can do the insight meditation in a very deep level. Because all the Dhamma facts are visible to him. Now he compared these Dhamma, what he has learned, with his practical life. Because of that, he can do the meditation, he can do especially the insight meditation in a very deep level. He can understand, he can achieve the insight knowledges as well. Pahitatto samano kayena cheva parama satchang satchi karoti. Panyāchanang ativijja passati. The last step is, with that padahana, with that vipassana, with that meditation levels or the knowledges he achieved by the meditation, he can attain, he can understand the noble truths by his mind. He can eradicate all the defilements. He can eradicate all these latent tendencies or the akusala energies, unwholesome energies within himself. Then he can attain the noble paths. He can attain the ultimate liberation or the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Then the path will be completed. He can come to the end of the samsara. If he can attain the path of the Arahant, if he can become the Arahant, then the existence will not be there as a next birth. He will not have a rebirth. The generation of these aggregates or the faculties or the elements will not be there as the next life. That is the end of the practice, and he has attained the supreme levels of this sasana, supreme level of this practice. In that way, we have to understand the gradual practice, gradual steps, what we have to follow in order to achieve the higher levels of this practice. Because anyone has to start from the beginning. That is the very beginning. Silancha suvisuddhan ditticha ujuka. You have to maintain a very pure virtue within you, and you have to make your view in a correct way. You have to ignore, you have to avoid, refrain from the wrong views, and you have to develop the correct view within yourself. That you have to do. Then you can gradually develop yourself within the practice, and you can attain the supreme levels, higher levels, the highest levels of this sasana, of this training, of this practice. And you can end up this samsara, and you can end up this existence or the sufferings. That is the ultimate results you can achieve. So in this Dhamma talk, in this Dhamma discussion, at the very beginning we started by elaborating, by discussing about the existence. What is this existence? What has been happening here? What will happen in the future? And how we can understand that existence. There's no living being, there's no self, there's no a person within that existence. So how we can understand that existence? That we discussed in the beginning. Then we discuss why that existence will not come to an end. Why the samsara continue as the generation without coming to an end. Then we discuss why the set of aggregates or the elements or the faculties will be emerging again and again without coming to an end. What is the story? What is the root cause behind these emergings, arisings? We understood, we realized that there is akusala energy within ourselves, within every living being. That is the root cause for this non-stopping, continuous emergings without coming to an end. The way what we have to follow is, in order to suppress that akusala energy, in order to eliminate that akusala energy, we have to develop the kusalas. That is advised by the Buddha within this practice. Then we have to follow that one. But it is not an easy task. Buddha also agreed that, Buddha also accepted that for the disciples this will not be an easy task. It is very difficult one because of these defilements, because of these delusion. But anyway, you have to follow that. Even though it is too difficult for you to develop this practice, this is the only solution you can take in order to get rid of this samsara, get rid of this suffering. But you have to do it within today itself. You should not delay this thing. You have to start it and develop it without postponing. But Buddhas are there to teach you the path, to give you the instructions, admonishments. But everything should be done by yourself. The practice should be developed by you. The wisdom should be developed by you. The concentration should be developed by you. The Buddhas cannot take you to the liberation on behalf of you. That cannot be done. Everything should be done by you. The practice is based on the wholesome activities. That is what we call the wholesome practice. But at the very beginning, you have to purify that path. At the very beginning of that wholesome practice should be cleared, should be purified. How you can purify the very beginning? You should have a pure virtue. You should have the correct view towards the practice, towards the liberation, towards the basic principles of this practice, of this Dhamma. By having those two steps to purify the very beginning of this wholesome practice, then the wholesome practice will begin, and everything should be done in a gradual way. In a gradual way, you can practice it. In a gradual way, you can practice it. In a gradual way, you can develop these things, because the practice also gradual. The results also gradual. The things what you have to follow, the steps are also gradual. In this practice, everything is gradual. This is a gradual training, gradual practice. The results are also in a gradual way. So, we discuss what are the things what we have to follow step by step in a gradual way in order to achieve the liberation, in order to suppress the defilements in the very beginning and eradicate or eliminate completely these defilements by your mind and achieve the liberation. So, this is the summary what we have discussed today within this Dhamma sermon. So, with this summary, with this giving the brief summary about the entire Dhamma sermon, I am going to end up the Dhamma talk today, this Dhamma discussion. So, the preaching the Dhamma and listening to the Dhamma is a very powerful, great, wholesome deed, a great merit. So, we have accumulated those powerful merits by us. So, we should transfer these merits to our parents, to the teachers who ordained us and who preach, who taught Dhamma to us. May they receive these merits, may they rejoice these merits, and may they attain. May these merits be a great cause, powerful cause for them to achieve their wished paths and fruitions and the liberation, ultimate Nibbana. And also we should transfer these powerful merits to the beloved ones who have passed away, the relatives and the friends. May all the beings receive these merits and rejoice these merits, and may they have the blissful, desirable results in their lives, and may these merits be a great cause for them also to achieve their wished paths, fruitions and the liberation. And also we should transfer these merits to the Devas, Brahmas who are protecting us, who are protecting the Buddha Sasana. May all these Devas and Brahmas may receive these merits, may rejoice these merits, and this may be a great cause for them to develop their blissful results, and may they protect you, may they protect us, may they protect the Buddha Sasana, and may these meritorious deeds, accumulated merits, be a great cause for them to achieve their wished paths and fruition. And also I want to wish you who joined with this Dhamma sermon, who have been listening to this Dhamma sermon, may you all have good physical and mental health, and may these merits be a great cause to achieve your meritorious goals, meritorious wishes, and may all those wishes come true, and may you be able to develop the practice within this very life, and may you have the blissful results in this very life, and may you have the desirable, pleasurable lives until you achieve the ultimate Nibbana. And all these merits we have accumulated within this period be a great cause for you to achieve your wished paths, fruitions and the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May you all have the blessings of the triple gems.